Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 8 of the TriStar Sports Show. Jamie and I are here back again after a good slate of college football, and once again, the Vols victorious. They won against Oklahoma on the road, Oklahoma's first ever SEC game, and Josh Heupel's return to Norman. They win that game 25-15. Hey, felt good to win on the road, didn't it?
Felt really good. Honestly, probably could have won by more if we really wanted to. I felt like we kept kept a lot of the playbook still hidden, which is good for the bigger games coming up. But we looked dominant, even though it was only a 10-point victory. I felt like that game was in our control from start to finish.
Yeah, you saw the clip that went around after the game of Heupel kind of talking into Nico's ear. I don't know how somebody
Yeah,
got their camera that close to their conversation because they weren't talking loud. But luckily they did because it kind of confirmed to a lot of people that he did take his foot off the gas a little bit because he knew we kind of could and just get away with the win. Why show your hand and look all? It might not look as pretty in the box score or in the highlight reel, but to me, I think it's honestly more impressive showing that we can find different ways to win the game.
absolutely agree. Especially whenever your defense is playing the way that ours was on Saturday night. There's no reason to try and be flashy or really push the ball downfield whenever you don't need to, because it might seem new to Tennessee fans, definitely seems new to me, but we have the luxury this year of being able to trust our defense, and it's nice.
It is. For the most part, Tennessee really dominated this game from, I would like to say, start to finish. They did get a couple of garbage time touchdowns on us, which ended up being our first touchdown surrendered on the entire season so far. So that streak has come to an end. But, defense, once again, got double-digit tackle for losses. They got a few sacks, a safety, forced a few turnovers. Overall, just outstanding performance. And I think, honestly, the best thing is they forced those turnovers right after we coughed the ball up, which
Right.
didn't allow Oklahoma to get any sort of momentum.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple fumbles on the day, not the best thing you want to see, but watching the game, a lot of those fumbles were blown protections or, I mean, just kind of tough situations to be in. And like you said, our defense got it done on the back end, and we got the ball right back. So, scoreboard, I guess.
And I'm just looking at the box score here. I don't know if I've seen a time of possession this drastic in favor of Tennessee. It has us at 35 minutes to 24. So that just shows that
That's
we
crazy.
dominated and we ran the ball. I think
Absolutely.
was it 51 to 74 plays or something like that. So we didn't throw the ball because we didn't have to for one. And when we did, it was successful. It wasn't like Nico was throwing the ball into our bad places or anything like that.
Right.
He dinked and dunked when he had to, and we saw him even open up the passing game a little bit. And I don't know if he even missed a deep ball downfield. So
I don't think he did. We didn't take too many, but, whenever we needed to score, we did. We had a long touchdown pass to Thornton at the end of the first, going into the second quarter, kind of caught them on their heels a little bit. I think they might have expected us to either run the ball or just kind of get to the second quarter with time winding down, and we showed them who we can be if we want to be.
yeah, we saw a good performance out of Brew. He kind of made one good catch and run early in that game, and then later in the game he had that good diving catch. So he was 4 catches for about 90. What was it? 92 yards. Yeah, 92 yards.
92. Yeah, he
And
was
then
our leading receiver.
yeah, for the first time this season, I believe. So
Mm-hmm.
good to kind of get him and Thornton the ball again. We haven't really heard from Thornton since really like week one, just because I don't think we've really had
Right.
to. They've kind of separated themselves, I think, as wide receiver 1 and 2, and then kind of the rest of the pack is just rotating. But
I agree.
there was kind of some talks going on online this past weekend. Like, does Tennessee have a true wide receiver 3? And it's like, it normally you'd be like, oh, that's not good because they don't have a good third receiver, but that's not the case here. It's just we have so many other guys that fill that role where
Yeah.
you don't really need
Joke's on you. We have 4 wide receiver 3s.
to. Right, exactly. I mean, if you look at the stat sheet from every game so far this season, there's a lot of dudes catching the football. This
Yeah,
one was
absolutely.
probably the least, but you see, like the last 3 weeks, it's like there'll be 10 guys with the reception to their name. So I mean, just
Right.
Nico spreading the love, and it's paying off. We look sharp. Samson did his thing again, just shy of 100 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Bishop,
Bishop,
yeah, I mean he's really,
65. I mean,
and I'm pretty sure.
RB2.
I'm not sure if Cam Seld ended up playing this game or not. I thought I saw him in the game.
I thought we saw him in the game.
He didn't register anything in the box score, I don't think, but I swear I saw 23 on the field. So he might have been back in a more limited role, and they know they have
Right.
Bishop as a good RB too. So why force him back anytime soon?
I agree. I guess just going back to the wide receiver 3 talk, I would like to see a little bit more out of Squirrel as the year goes on because I am pretty confident in what he can do. But we'll just have to see. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's not. We're doing just fine on offense, so it's getting pretty nitpicky whenever you're asking for more from this team, in my opinion.
Yeah, I just think him and guys like Chris Brazell are just kind of trying to figure out where they're going to fit all in.
Right.
But it's like it goes back to the conversation is Tennessee has not had to throw the ball to win the game yet. Eventually,
Exactly.
at some point this season, we're going to have to throw the ball to win a game. Whether that be the next game or later in the season, we don't know. I mean, ideally it never happens, but if we want to be realistic, at some point, someone's going to challenge us enough in the trenches that we're going to have to throw the ball consistently. And that's when we're going to find out who separates from that pack. I mean, we saw a good deep ball to Brazil last week against Kent State, and Squirrel has his sprinkle of catches here and there in the screen game, but for the most part,
Seems like we use him more as like a gadget guy a little bit.
right, and that might be setting up for something later in the season. We don't know, but
Right. Who knows?
eventually we'll have to see more of them, and I'm excited for when that happens. As far as Nico goes, I mean, he won another SEC Freshman of the Week award. Like we mentioned, the 2 turnovers. Really, I don't really know if you can really blame either one of them on him. He kind of just got hit from the blind side and lost the ball. I'm sure he'll tell
We
you.
were missing our starting left tackle.
Which, yeah. We were down our left tackle, Lance Hurd, and then you had Campbell on the right side go down during the game, which we did get report today saying that both should be back by Arkansas following the bye week, so
Good.
that should be cleaned up. I mean, the pass protection wasn't as perfect as it's been all season. You could tell that we were missing a little bit on that left side.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure Nico and Heupel will both say that he's got to take care of the football and not fumble, but
Hey, accountability, and I like it.
right. I mean, another good way to put it is if we just watched Nico's worst game, that's probably a pretty good spot to be. I mean, I guess it could always be worse, but I really think that probably is about as worse as you're going to see him play. And it wasn't bad by any means. I mean, it's just the 2 turnovers.
Right. I agree. I mean, like you said, if that's the worst he plays all season, we're doing just fine. 13 of 21, 194 yards and a touchdown. He didn't throw any interceptions, which is good. I mean, I would have rather seen what we saw on Saturday than seen us try to run the score up on him and Nico end up throwing a couple of interceptions. And, I mean, that can affect a quarterback, even if you're winning the game. It can affect their mental.
But yeah, as far as Tennessee goes, pretty clean game. I think it was a good welcome to the SEC moment for Oklahoma. I think it showed them that games can be won in the line of scrimmage in this conference, and they have a little bit of a gap behind at least us, and I'm sure a few other teams in this conference that will use the same formula we used against them last week. And as far as Oklahoma goes, they got some things to clean up. Their quarterback got benched in the middle of the game. Then I think they brought him back in for a little bit, and then he got benched again. I don't know what that whole situation was. I know the backup was the only one that put points on the board, really, for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And he got named the starter going into this week. So we'll kind of see what he does there. I know he's a freshman, so there's no telling what you can get. Right. I mean, he looked athletic. He was able to move the ball, which, I mean, Jackson Arnold was 7 for 16, 54 passing yards, no touchdowns, and 1 pick. His QBR was a 1.3. So not
pretty bad.
That's not a pretty game by any means. I mean,
not at all.
He played bad, and Tennessee's defense didn't make that any bit easier for him. And then Hawkins, the backup, was 11 for 18, 132, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, and a 58 QBR, which once again, not the best, but he also ran for 22 yards, which gives him a lot more versatility than I think what Arnold was doing. I mean, the stats show Arnold with negative 21 rushing yards, but I think a lot of that's due to sacks and tackles for loss and whatnot. But,
right.
I mean, as a Tennessee fan, I was pleased. I know a lot of people talked about it wasn't the flashiest game in the world, but I'm okay with that. If we can win like that, I'm not going to be the least bit upset.
Doesn't need to be flashy. It wasn't ugly. I thought it was a clean win. And, I mean, yeah, I'm okay with it too. More than okay with it.
Tennessee now, going into next week, has a bye week. So no game to preview there. However, I would say probably a much-needed bye week.
Yeah, definitely a time to – I mean, when you're missing both of your starting tackles, your bookends, definitely a good time to heal up, rest. Just get your mind right for a team that won't be an easy road game. No game in the SEC will be an easy road game. And I think that despite Arkansas's record maybe not being what they would like it to be, they've played a lot of good teams pretty close.
Yeah, they have. And I think they have a pretty talented quarterback. I mean, he uses his legs a lot. He's quick, which is another dynamic to the game that we're going to have to watch out for. We really haven't had to play against a mobile quarterback so far this season. Or at least we didn't let anyone look mobile. But, yeah, I mean, we'll highlight that game going next week and whatnot. They have a big test against A&M, which we'll talk about later in this episode. But, yeah, good thing for the Vols, get healthy. Probably a good thing for them to kind of maybe not necessarily bring their ego down a little bit, but I think you could have gotten yourself in a potential trap game with Arkansas right away if you came off a big road win. And then you have Florida the following week. It was kind of a good spot to just get the first first third of the season done. You're 4-0. It's gone exactly how you would like it to. You got moved up to top 5 in the country now. So, not a bad place to be after a third of the season done.
Not at all. I agree.
So, on that note, I guess we will highlight some of the other Week 4 games that we saw. If we want to start out with the Friday night game, which was the Nebraska game, they lost to Illinois at home. We were dead wrong about that game. We were dead wrong about a lot of games, as we're going to talk about.
Yeah, we were.
We had a rough week. So if you want to start out with that one a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Nebraska, Illinois, it went to overtime, tied up after the fourth quarter, 24-24. Illinois just found a way to get it done in overtime. Ended up winning 31-24. Raiola was still the passing leader of the game with 297, but I've seen a lot of people on social media displeased with his play, kind of just displeased with the outcome, saying that the Mahomes shenanigans need to stop.
I mean, yeah, we highlighted it on a previous episode. The whole Mahomes thing it's fine and dandy if you're winning. People don't like any gimmicks or anything like that when you're losing. They lost. Was that their first loss of the season, I believe?
Yeah, both teams were 3-0 going into it.
I mean, yeah, season's not a watch. I still think Nebraska is way better than it's been in years past. I think it honestly just gives
Oh
credit to
yeah.
Illinois. Brett Bielema is their head coach. They kind of got a little bit of a train rolling there. Their defense is playing pretty solid. They can score. They can score
Yeah.
points a little bit better than they were in years past. Typically, when Illinois is on your schedule, you expect just like a slow Big Ten game. But they look good, and once again, they have a big game coming up this week, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, we started our weekend off already with a loss of prediction on Friday night, which was tough going into
Right.
Saturday.
We'll say real quick, Illinois did get back there 5 times, sacked him. He had negative 52 rushing yards on the night, so not putting yourself in a good position to win whenever you're giving up 5 sacks to your quarterback.
Absolutely not.
So that will get us into Saturday. If you want to take that over.
Yeah, so let's see. Clemson did. I mean, we'll talk about this really fast. They did to NC State kind of what Tennessee did. I mean, they just blew them out of the water. NC State, I guess, is just not going to be very competitive this season. They had a good chance to get back in the win column, or at least in the competitive column, and I think they've just lost all momentum. So
Absolutely.
that was bad. USC Michigan was probably one of the other better games of the week. We kind of were sitting there watching that one together before the Tennessee game. Pretty much everyone we knew seemed like they bet on USC just because a road team were they? I can't remember. Were they underdogs or favorites?
They were underdogs,
And I think we were just like
but
it seemed like free money. They were the better team going into that game. However, they were not the better team coming out of it.
right.
Michigan by no means looked great. They just ran the ball and over and over and over and over again.
Ran the ball very well. I mean, 2 pick sixes from Miller Moss. Once again, does not put yourself or put your team in a good position to win. I know that Michigan does have probably the top cornerback in the country, and Will Johnson. He had one of the pick sixes, but I mean, still, I was expecting USC to go in there and take care of business. Michigan showed that they might not be as bad, or they might not be as bad as people were thinking they were after the Texas game. I think a lot of people just completely wrote them off. So we'll have to see how they do going forward.
And I think it shows similar to what I was just kind of talking about with the whole Oklahoma joining the SEC. I think it's kind of a welcome to the Big Ten moment for USC. There's going to be games where the other team is literally just going to run the ball and try to win in that format and play good defense. And USC just wasn't prepared for, I guess, that situation. Michigan started Orgy as their quarterback, where he is not known as a passer whatsoever. So I don't know. Like you said, 2 pick sixes. That made up 14 of their 27 points. That's a huge help.
Right.
But defense wins games, and it showed up in this one.
Absolutely.
But other than that, let's see what other games we have on this slate. You had LSU kind of looking pretty dominant versus UCLA. Not much about that one. The Utah-Oklahoma State game was a close one. But one of the biggest surprises of the week, I would probably say, was the Vandy-Missouri game.
Oh, absolutely.
Missouri being a top 10 team at home against Vandy shouldn't have been a game. At least that's what we would have thought going into it. However, Vandy gave them just about everything they had, and they fell up just short with a missed field goal in overtime. But, man, what a game.
Vandy looked – I mean, I'm starting to believe that Vandy might not be too bad of a team. I know they lost to Georgia State, which is pretty contradictory with my previous statement. But, I mean, beating Virginia Tech to open the season, playing a top 10 number 7 Mizzou, going into 2 overtimes with them. I don't know. I'm interested to see where Vandy goes from here, how they respond in the coming weeks, and just continuing on in SEC play. And I'm also interested to see where Mizzou goes from here, because I think that some of their weaknesses might have been brought to light, so to speak.
Yeah, they dropped pretty far in the polls. I'm not sure where they ended up falling. I think they're outside the top 10 now. But,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, Vandy started out 2-0, then lost to Georgia State, and then took a top 10 team on the road to overtime. It's kind of hard to tell what that football team is made up of, at least at this moment. You've seen glimpses of, wow, they look a lot better. And then there's we just lost to Georgia State. So we don't really know.
Right.
But they could be that try to play that spoiler role all season long. Go into your
I'm
house
sure.
against the rest of these
Yeah.
SEC teams and just give them a little bit of trouble. Who knows? I mean, they could very well lose every game the rest of the season. It's Vanderbilt. There's no telling. But, I mean, I was pulling for them. I would have loved to see them go get that win.
Right. Missouri is now just outside the top 10 at 11. So they dropped 4 spots from that close game.
Which is probably pretty justifiable.
I agree. Speaking of, Tennessee moved up another spot. Just touching on that. Top 5 team now.
Dang right. Moving in closer and closer.
Yep.
And then another game we were probably pretty drastically wrong on was the Miami USF game. We actually got a little bit of flack on the TikTok comment section for that one.
Yeah.
Because we talked about how we thought that USF would probably cover. I don't remember what the spread was. It might have been 21.5 or something like that. Based off the way USF played Bama and earlier in the season and them being at home, we kind of thought at least lose by a couple scores.
Right.
They cover. Everyone's happy. Miami looks good. Miami looks very good.
Cam Ward looks very good.
Yeah, and he looks so composed back there. It's like watching that game and then watching the Florida game earlier this year. I've never seen a quarterback look like he doesn't care to be out there, but perform at the level that he's at. There's moments where he'll have someone coming right in his face, and he just takes a little side step to the right. Doesn't even look like he's running, jogging, or anything. He's kind of just walks around the pocket, throws it right to the receiver for another touchdown. I mean, he plays great. He's in the Heisman conversation for sure at this point in the season.
Absolutely.
Some people probably argue a potential Heisman favorite right now. I don't know what the odds are looking like yet or still, but I mean, yeah, he looked good at 24 of 34. He threw for 404 passing yards, 404 passing yards, 3 touchdowns.
That's nuts.
One interception. He had a 130 QBR. And then on top of that, he ran for 43 yards. So, I mean, he had a hell of a day, to say the least.
He did. He had a hell of a day. And he absolutely is the odds-on favorite right now to win the Heisman.
And what's the gap between first and second on that?
He's plus 350. Jackson Dart from Ole Miss is plus 500. And then Jalen Milroe from Alabama is plus 750. Followed up by number 4 at plus 1,000, Nico Iamaleava.
At number 4 now?
Yep.
We'd love to hear that.
From On3, based on the On3 website.
Okay. And then, I mean, yeah. I think Miami is legit for the first time in a very long time. So,
right.
The U might be back for at least now. Other games, A&M had a close kind of scare with Bowling Green. They ended up winning that one by 6. Ole Miss beat Georgia Southern pretty bad. Ole Miss hasn't really played anyone yet this year. That's what I was going to say. I think kind of have a bone to pick with Jackson Dart being that big of a Heisman favorite. I know he's putting up all the stats, but they have legit not played anyone yet. They kind of kept him in games longer than they probably could or should. Stat pad a little bit. And Lane Kiffin's offense is going to be more when you're up, they're still throwing the ball, taking shots downfield, just explosive plays.
Yeah.
Whereas like a team like Tennessee, Heupel just loves to run the ball when he can. Ole Miss not as much, which is kind of why you see such a stats difference between Nico and Jackson Dart right now. However, I think as the season goes on, it might probably balance out a little bit as Nico is
Yeah,
forced to
time will
throw.
tell.
Nico's going to be forced to throw the ball more, and Jackson Dart's going to have to not going to be able to complete as many passes as he is. So we'll
Right.
see about
We'll have to
that.
see. I'm not sure, not entirely sure who they have coming up, but I'd find it hard to believe that they continue on the trajectory they're going right now, just based off their strength of schedule.
I mean, yeah, he
Strength of
threw it.
schedule thus far.
He threw it 31 times for 382 passing yards and 4 touchdowns against Georgia Southern. I don't think we've seen Tennessee throw it that many times in a game at all this year.
No, and if we were up by that much, we wouldn't have thrown it that
No.
many times.
So, yeah, they have Kentucky coming up, South Carolina, LSU, Oklahoma, Georgia, Arkansas, Florida, Mississippi State. I mean, they got some – I think they've played all their non-conference to start the year, so those are all gone. They have 8 straight SEC games, so we'll figure out how good Ole Miss and Jackson Dart are in those next 8 games.
Absolutely. Other than that, Florida looked good against not so good Mississippi State.
Yeah, I mean, Florida didn't necessarily look good. The score wasn't that. I mean, what was the final on that? Like 24-14?
45-28.
45-28. I'm surprised they even put up as much as they did. I mean, tough to say. Florida's pretty down in the sadness right now, just based off the earlier part of the season.
They haven't lost to Toledo.
And then Mississippi State, they have a lot of issues going on over there right now. I don't know what their plan is. Let's see, what else was there? Boise State beat up on Portland State, which is expected. Texas beat up on Louisiana Monroe. How did Ashton Genty do this week? That's what I'm curious.
127, which I don't mean to just brush that off like only 127, but at this point, and especially against a team like Portland State.
Well, he only had 11 carries, so.
Okay, so those yards per carry over 10 is pretty crazy.
Yeah, he was at I'm looking. He had 11 and a half yards per carry. He also had a 68-yard rush in that game, so he's still
no touchdowns, surprisingly.
Yeah, no kidding. But he's still doing his thing, obviously.
Yeah, he is.
We are big Ashton Genty fans on this show.
Ranked.
And then last game of the week, what seems like, was a ranked 1 Kansas State BYU. BYU handled the game very, very well. They won 38-9. I don't know if that was their first Big 12 game of the year. No, they played SMU. It was in the ACC.
Yes.
So Wyoming, that was their first Big 12 game as a program. Unless they were in it last year, I can't remember if they joined last year or this year. But regardless, big home win against a ranked opponent, a conference opponent. So shout out to BYU. Right. And I think for the most part, well, I guess as far as non-ranked games go, there was Baylor, Colorado. I have to unfortunately sit here and say that Colorado won a football game.
They did.
Should not have won the football game. They took a Hail Mary for them to tie it and go to overtime, but at the end of the day, they scored more than the other team when it mattered, so they won.
Shadur with 341, Travis Hunter with 130.
I saw Travis Hunter paid like 144 snaps or something like that.
That's nuts.
Combined between offense and defense. So I guess if you were going to sit here and do the Heisman Trophy Award and truly give it to the best player, not necessarily
the best quarterback,
or the best means most to their team kind of thing, I guess it would be Travis Hunter. Obviously, I don't think he's even in the top 5 in odds or anything like that, just because he plays for a losing team.
Right.
Um,
Got to be a winning team if you're going to win. If you're going to
there
win the
was
Heisman.
a point in American history where the Heisman Award did not just go to the quarterback. Basically the quarterback award, but to an extent, you kind of have to see both sides because I feel like the best quarterback on the best team in the country probably deserves that award unless their name's Stetson Bennett, Carson Beck, or any Georgia quarterback in the last few years because they were really good at handing the ball off and hitting a check down. But
Right. Hey, I'm a firm believer that a quarterback means the most to a team probably 99% of the time.
yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
it's tough when you see a guy like Travis Hunter put up 100 receiving yards a game and then play every defensive snap and force a game-winning
walk down
fumble.
the other receiver.
Force a game-winning fumble.
Right.
And all that really kind of goes down the drain because they can't win enough games, and he won't win any awards. Maybe some smaller award or something like that, but not the Heisman
Yeah.
at this point, unless they went on a tear. Yeah. But I don't think anyone sees that happening.
We'll have to see. No, I don't. Well, I believe that gets us to week 5.
Yeah, and I think to start off week 5, we can kind of talk about the news that came out today before we get into the games. Yeah. It's not necessarily so. For those who don't know or saw, today, Wednesday, September 25th, the UNLV quarterback, let me make sure I get his name right. Where was it? Matthew Sluka. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. That's what they said online today, so I hope they were getting it right. This is not crazy breaking news because of how talented he is, but what happened was they've played 3 games this season, and all of a sudden today they're 3-0. They were probably one of the top group of 5 teams projected to make a playoff push. They beat Kansas. They've beaten someone else too. That was a Power 4 conference. And all of a sudden he basically, I don't want to call it quits on the team, but he said he's going to transfer at the end of the season and he's no longer playing for UNLV and he's redshirting. Which
That's
is
crazy.
wild. But the story is he was apparently promised money, some said $100K allegedly, to go there. And he allegedly, I'm going to say allegedly just because I don't know the truth, but
right.
didn't get a dime of it, which isn't good by any means. Getting lied to.
Not a dime is nuts.
Yeah, I mean
not even like
it would have been one thing
it.
if he got like $75K out of the $100K and you'd be like, okay, man,
right.
just play the game. But
yeah,
we don't know if that influenced his decision to go there in the first place. I think he played at Holy Cross or something like that before, and I'm sure he was in the transfer portal before this, so we don't know what offers he turned down to go to UNLV. But then you see his running back also do the same thing today, and then also a USC player did the same thing, not necessarily due to money or anything like that, but I think this is opening players' eyes to, if I'm not playing as much as I want to, if I'm not getting paid as much as I want to, or any other XYZ reason, if you, by week 4, you can save your red shirt season and just say, I'm not playing, and I'm going to transfer. Sorry.
I mean, players have a lot of power in their hands, almost like, I'm not going to say to the same extent, but almost like the NFL now, just holding out. But at the same time, from the player's perspective, now you're a business. You're marketing yourself. So why take a chance on getting hurt at practice or this, that, or the other if it's not worth it to you? So I can see both ways. I don't agree with it from a fan perspective, but
if I was a UNLV fan, I'd be pretty butthurt, I think, to say the least.
I'd be pretty mad.
Because, I mean, I don't know if I'd be mad at the player. I'd almost be mad at the staff, potentially, of not holding up to what they said.
Right.
Just because if he didn't get his money, who knows what else is going on over there.
Right.
But like you said,
I would also be. What were you saying?
it's comparable. It's starting to turn like college sports are turning into professional sports. Like
Right.
whether you want to believe it or not believe it or like it or don't like it, that's just the way it's going. So you want to be a team like a Tennessee or Ohio State or a Miami who's investing so much in this NIL concept because it ain't going away anytime soon. So you
Right.
might as well be one of the best at it. And there's just so much that's going to change. And like you said, these guys are now they're their own business. They can make money. They
Mm-hmm.
have to make decisions for themselves. But I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, by definition, they are professionals now.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
definition of a professional is someone who gets paid to do something or to do whatever that is they're doing. So, I mean, I guess in terms of NIL, they're not technically getting paid to play football, but they're making money off of their name, image, and likeness, which they wouldn't have a name, image, and likeness if they weren't playing football. I would be interested to see if anything ever came to light about how official, I guess, whether it was 100K or whatever number it was it just him and a coach talking, and the coach was it just completely verbal of like, yeah, we'll pay you 100K. That's completely different than if it was in some sort of writing, in my opinion.
Yeah, the report was an assistant coach verbally told him and promised him 100K, but
See, that doesn't
in
really
in the eyes of the
mean
laws,
much.
yeah, in the eyes of the
Yeah,
law, unless there's a text message, an email, a handwritten note somewhere, a contract saying that he's going to make $100,000, just
right.
because he told you. I mean, this is where we're going to see, I think, a shift in. I think we're going to start seeing contracts by these colleges, and you.
Either that or the NCAA tightens it back up a little bit, which I know a lot of people think that there's some sort of middle ground, but I just feel like players would go up in arms. Like, you've given them this taste of freedom and being able to do whatever they want and make as much money as they can or want to. Taking that away from them is going to be a lot harder.
Right. I mean, you can't create the wild wild west and then
Right.
expect people to not use and abuse it. I mean,
Right.
you've allowed this to happen. I don't really know where you go from here. I know there was talks about a while back that schools are going to now be able to directly pay players rather than having like a third party
Mm-hmm.
collective. So there might be maybe some more rules and sanctions you can kind of put within that. But
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I just thought it was an interesting topic.
For sure.
I mean, I like you said, I see both sides full heartedly. I'm kind of
Mm-hmm.
curious on what they think in that locker room right now because they
Right.
they know more of a truth than we do.
Absolutely.
So if the players know that he got screwed over, they might not be too happy. But then again, they might
Mm-hmm.
also just be like, sometimes they're just like, screw that guy. He was a head case. I mean, you don't know. So
Right. True. I mean, I guess another thing that the big wigs could potentially do that I've heard them talk about is put some sort of cap limit on amount of times you're allowed to transfer, which I don't, I mean, I'm not sure if this guy's transferred before or at all, but I have heard talks of limiting players to one or two free transfers before, after that certain amount of transfers, it goes back to the way it was where you have to sit out a year if you transfer.
yeah,
So I don't know if that would ever come to fruition, but
I
who
don't
knows?
know. I mean, it's gotten crazy. I don't want to say I totally hate it because it's
Right.
honestly made Tennessee pretty good.
We're
Um,
benefiting from it.
you are, and there's the concept of do the rich get richer and the poor get poorer.
We
Kind
weren't
of,
rich.
kind of, sorta, but I don't know.
Right.
We'll see how it goes. I'm gonna keep an eye on UNLV the rest of the season and kind of just see where they go from here because
Absolutely.
I would have expected him just to like pull this number after they lost or something like that. But
Yeah.
they're playing the best they can literally play right now, and he did it. So, but I guess he was trying to prevent his redshirt year. I think he only had this was supposed to be his last year of eligibility, is what it was, or something like that. So I think if he
Mm-hmm.
knew if he played one more game or two more games, that was it. He couldn't pull this.
Right.
But I mean,
Smart move on his part.
if you're not a guy that's expected to go to the NFL, you got to capitalize on the 100K or whatever it was. I mean, while you have a chance.
Exactly.
So, and I don't think
Right.
he was an NFL guy going into this season. So that's a lot of money. That is a lot of money at
It is.
22 years old or whatever he is. So.
Right. Completely agree. I can't blame him. I don't know. It's a tough situation,
It is.
but an interesting one nonetheless.
But yeah, on that note, I guess we can kind of switch gears into this week's
Games.
slate. So if you want to pick any game to start out with.
Well, I guess I'll start out on Friday with, just because we have a team we talked about earlier with number 7 Miami playing against Virginia Tech. Miami's at home, favored by 20, and Virginia Tech lost to Vanderbilt, which I know I said that Vanderbilt might be better than people think they were, but like we also said, Miami's for real, and I expect them to win this game and probably cover the 20-point spread at home.
Yeah, I mean, Miami's kind of made us eat our words, so I'm going to have a hard time picking against them from here on out until they kind of
Right.
show me otherwise. I think there's honestly just like the Tennessee fan in me that kind of resonates with Miami fans, Nebraska fans, stuff like that, where there's this whole idea of like, are we actually back to where we're supposed to be, or is this all like a fluke, or is this like there's there's the cautiously optimistic mindset where you can't fully allow yourself to be like 110% bought in, but as from an outsider, I really do think they are legit, and I didn't think they were going to lose last week, but I thought it could have been closer. But they showed to me they had no business getting close to losing that game. And
right, absolutely.
In theory, this should be the same thing going into this week. They should win by a lot again. So I'll take the Hurricanes.
Completely agree. Yeah, there you go. Starting off Saturday with the 12 o'clock time slate. UK, Kentucky at Ole Miss. This one's an interesting one for the sole fact of, like we were saying earlier, like you were saying specifically, Tegan, that Ole Miss hasn't played anybody. And you could say the opposite for Kentucky. They've played a team that's better than a lot of people thought they were going to be in South Carolina. And they've also played at the time, the number 1 team in the country, now number 2 in Georgia. And Kentucky's the reason that they're number 2 now.
Yeah.
Not number 1.
Correct.
I mean, they gave them all they wanted. And you can sit here and say all day long, and I've said it before, that you're not going to beat Georgia without scoring a touchdown, which I still believe is true. But I'll also sit here and say that Ole Miss is not on the same level as Georgia. And if Kentucky can clean it up on offense, and I don't know, I think Kentucky has a shot, and definitely has a shot to cover a 17.5-point spread, even if it's on the road.
Yeah, I mean, I think it being on the road is probably going to be the telltale of this game.
Right. It could be. Ole Miss could make me eat my words.
If this was in Lexington, I'd probably be more on board. I don't know. I just don't know. Like, there was a couple. It was a couple years ago where Will Levis and Kentucky went into Oxford and almost won. There was like a weird. I forget what the situation was. I think there was like a late turnover or something like that. Mm-hmm. Classic Will Levis turnover. Anyways, but no shade. But but I don't know. I don't know about the spread. I would probably say Ole Miss is going to win this game.
Right.
Just because
I'd probably agree with that.
Better team on paper. They should win.
Mm-hmm.
But we've seen crazier happen in college football. They could very well go in there thinking that they're hotty-toddy this and that. And I mean, it's the SEC. It's the best conference for a reason. Anybody can beat anyone on any given Saturday. And
right.
Georgia fortunately got by Kentucky. But but we don't really know who Kentucky is. I mean, they lost by a couple points to the number one team in the country at the time, and then they got smacked by South Carolina. So it's like, where are they? Somewhere in the middle, like of between that. Like I don't know where they are as a team right now.
I mean, they could be anywhere from what we were talking about Vandy potentially being as just kind of a spoiler who's going to play a lot of good teams really close and kind of mess up some rankings, or all the way to a severely underrated team. We
Yeah,
really don't have any idea right now. It's
I
still
mean,
early in the season.
I guess we'll probably really truly find out this weekend if they get smacked by Ole
Probably.
Miss. I mean, we know that they're just
Yeah.
that Georgia game was
Georgia game was a
probably a
fluke.
fluke. But
Right.
unfortunately, lightning doesn't always exactly strike twice, and they did not strike when the iron was hot when they had the chance. But I'm probably taking Ole
Absolutely.
Miss in this one. I, I,
Mm-hmm.
but like I said, who knows? It's the SEC.
Who knows? I think Ole Miss, if you had to put a bet down, I'd probably say Ole Miss would win the game. But I do think the spread's interesting, and I'd be interested to see how much it moves going into game day. Kind of seeing like, okay, maybe a lot of money comes in on Kentucky, maybe a lot of money comes in on Ole Miss. I don't know. We'll have to see. It's one that I'm interested in.
Absolutely. So I think another good one to highlight would probably be Louisville or Notre Dame. So I don't know a ton about Louisville this season. I've heard good things that they're playing well.
Mm-hmm.
We know, I mean, I've kept up with Notre Dame this year. I mean, that loss to Northern Illinois, but then they also bounced back and they beat, was it Purdue?
Purdue.
At Purdue, they smacked them. And then last week, I think they were playing, it was another MAC team. Um, I'm not a
I don't
hundred.
remember.
I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure they won pretty big. Let me double check real fast. They beat Miami of Ohio, 28-3.
Okay.
And if I remember correctly, like I was keeping up with the score earlier in that game, and it was close for a little bit, but they must have just pulled away. I don't know. I have a hard time imagining Notre Dame losing twice at home in the same season. Not necessarily losing twice, but losing twice at home seems like a
Right.
challenge. We'll find out who Louisville is. I'm probably going to take Notre Dame at home, but that's a very
I
like
agree.
Notre Dame at home with a question mark is where I'd put that.
Yeah, for sure. A couple other early games that, I mean, I don't know too much about a couple of these teams, but they are just kind of interesting, especially after going over what happened last week. You have number 20 Oklahoma State at number 23 Kansas State, which Kansas State is coming off a pretty bad loss to BYU. Some would say they could be looking to get their get back and get right in this game at home. Some people will sit here and look at the just pure rankings and say that Oklahoma State is probably the better team. And I don't know if I would disagree with you, but I think that was an interesting one. Only a 5-point spread in Kansas State's favor, probably mainly for the fact that they're at home. And then also at noon, you have the team that Kansas State just lost to, who is number 22 now. They jumped them one spot in the rankings. BYU is playing at Baylor, which I'm sure Baylor's pissed off after last week. That's another conference matchup in the Big 12. We'll have to see if BYU caught lightning in a bottle, or I mean, who knows? Baylor probably should have won the game against Colorado. They unfortunately didn't, and we'll have that. Big 12 fans have an interesting early slate on Saturday, to say the least.
Yeah, to go with the Oklahoma State and Kansas State game.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, Oklahoma State also just lost a ranked game, so they lost to Utah.
They did.
So both
Okay,
teams,
yeah.
both teams coming off of a kind of a tough loss.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they played Utah a lot closer than Kansas State played BYU, to say the least.
BYU.
But
And Utah's number 10 now.
So we don't really know where this game could go. Literally either way, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It's a noon game, so weird things happen on new games. I don't know. I'd probably have to agree and say Oklahoma. Did you say Oklahoma State won
Yeah,
or wins?
that's what I think. I'm an
Kansas.
Ollie Gordon fan, though.
Yeah, I mean, I also like Ollie Gordon. I think he's a very talented back. Oklahoma State hasn't necessarily played probably up to their expectations because they had that close win against Arkansas as well earlier this year. But
Mm-hmm.
then Kansas State really has not performed the way they should either. So, man, I mean, we got to. There's been some tough matchups this year, even early in the season.
Right.
I don't know if that's a tell of just how competitive college football has kind of gotten over the last couple of years, just more widespread. I mean, there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of ranked matchups consistently, it seems like now. But
Right. Seemed like last week maybe was a little lackluster, in my opinion. Maybe that's just because the entire day I was looking forward to Tennessee, Oklahoma. But yeah, I don't want to hit on early games that are probably insignificant too much longer. But I will say Boston College plays Western Kentucky. Look for Boston College to win that game and probably win big. Interesting one in Northern Illinois against North Carolina State. It's at North Carolina State, but I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if Northern Illinois came in there and won the game. And North Carolina State's favored by a touchdown right now, so
is
keep an eye on that one.
Northern Illinois still undefeated?
I don't think so because they fell out of the rankings. They're 2-1.
Dang.
They lost to Buffalo.
I was gonna say if they go and beat NC State, we got a serious issue on our hands.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? NC State could be looking to get right against a semi-notable team, but who knows?
NC State needs that game bad. They need that game bad.
And then a sleeper. I mean, not a huge game, not a ranked matchup, but a game that I think could be pretty good. And I know that USF kind of disappointed us last week and didn't do as good as we thought they were going to do. But USF at Tulane, I don't know. I think both those teams have been interesting to watch. And up until last week, they had both played some pretty good teams pretty close. So, I don't know. That one's cool to me. I'm going to probably tune into that one.
Still a conference matchup, correct? They're both in the American.
I don't think Tulane's Big 12 now.
Are they really? Are you sure? Are we sure?
No, I'm wrong. Tulane is still American.
Okay.
I don't know why I thought Tulane.
They feel like they joined that movement, but they didn't, I guess.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, America.
I think that's gonna be an exciting game. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know what the over/under is on that, but I wouldn't be shocked if there's a good amount of points scored.
64.5.
Yeah, they set that pretty high for a reason.
Yeah, I agree. Getting into 3:30, getting back into 3:30. If you want to take over some of these, we do have Oklahoma at Auburn.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this off the show. Oklahoma is strangely only favored by 2 at Auburn. Oklahoma on paper is the way better football team. We just kind of found it was interesting why they were only favored by 2 points, but I guess it's a road game in the SEC, their first ever road SEC game, and then based off of what we kind of just did to them last week, and now they're starting their backup quarterback as their starter, which I think he gives them a way better chance to at least. Especially with how much O-line troubles they're dealing with, a mobile quarterback is going to be able to at least disguise that a little bit better than what Jackson Arnold was able to do. I think Oklahoma takes over and they win on the road and get their first SEC win as a program.
I'll probably agree with you on that one. Next up, you got Arkansas at A&M, 24 A&M.
So yeah,
whether you think they should be or should not be.
That's a yearly rivalry game. I think they play in the Dallas Cowboys Stadium or Jerry's World, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's – I forget the name of the rivalry. unless I'm mixing it up with something. I swear it's a rivalry game. But Arkansas, they've actually played a lot better than what I think a lot of people were expecting them to play this year. Their only loss is coming to Oklahoma State, which was a very, very close game. Arguably should have won it. So yeah, they're a couple of plays away from being undefeated right now. They have a really good opportunity to beat a ranked opponent.
They do.
I think they probably will. I think Texas A&M is a little overrated, to be honest. I don't think
I completely agree. I mean, lost to Notre Dame, start the season.
I don't really know what they've done
Lost last week.
to deserve. Who did they lose to last week?
Well, you said they did lose last week. Did I hear that wrong?
I don't.
Who'd they
know.
play? A&M?
Did they
Who'd
play
last week?
They played Florida? Who played Florida? Someone played Florida and lost.
No, Mississippi State played Florida.
Oh, that's who it was. Different Maroon team. I think they.
A&M last week played. Oh no, they had a close. They played Bowling Green within 6 points.
Oh, that's what it was.
So
that's what it was.
They didn't lose, but still.
I don't know how they're honestly ranked to be. Like A&M is always just somehow in the rankings, despite not deserving it. To be honest,
Right.
but so yeah, I think
It's called the Southwest Classic. They have a trophy, and
is it like the two states on a trophy or something?
I can't tell what the trophy is. It's just a football that says Southwest Classic.
Okay, maybe.
But apparently it started in 1903.
Yeah. I think a big part of it is I think Jerry Jones went to Arkansas. So I
Sure
think
he did. Or
it's
from
kind of like
Arkansas, one of the two.
that's like a story within itself. But yeah, I'm going to take the Razorbacks to pull an upset. And I
I agree.
I think they're going to get in the top 25 after that, and perfect time to play UT and give us another ranked win. But we'll get to that next week. So
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Hopefully the Razorbacks win that one, and we can get another ranked win on our resume. Other than that, you got Colorado UCF, which I think is an interesting one, especially with the way the line's set. I know that Colorado has a lot of haters, Tegan being one of them, and
that would be
apparently
me.
Vegas being another, because
Vegas
I know
knows.
it's at UCF, and I don't want to get this wrong twice, but UCF is in the Big 12 now,
Yes.
right?
I can say that.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're actually first in the Big 12. They're 3-0. So maybe that's why they're still unranked, but they got them favored by 14.5. So I don't know. You just never know what Colorado you're going to get week to week right now, and I think that's the biggest question for me. As a Travis Hunter and Shadur Sanders fan, I would like to see Colorado go out there and win, but who knows? UCF has the Razorbacks' former quarterback in KJ Jefferson, and they're obviously playing well, 3-0, first in the Big 12. I'm not sure why they're not. I don't know who they've played, but I'm not really sure why they're not ranked over a team like A&M, in my opinion. So, who knows? I just wanted to highlight that one, though.
Yeah, I think UCF wins this one. I'm a Colorado hater. That's been established on the show. But the 14.5 spread is a little weird, to be honest. I would expect it to be a little bit
Right.
smaller. I mean, Colorado might cover, but then again, I wouldn't be shocked if Colorado lost by 30 because I don't think they're very good. So, who knows? We'll see.
They've played two not good teams, and they beat TCU, so I guess they're 1-0 in conference play.
That's why they're so high up there.
Yeah. Let's see. Just going down the line. UNC Duke this week. Not basketball season yet.
Yeah,
but
you just wish it was a basketball game, to be honest with you, how bad these two teams are
no
playing.
kidding.
The whole state of North Carolina is struggling on the football field this year.
Yeah, they are.
I
Who
can't
did
even.
UNC lose to?
James Madison.
James Madison. They got
They
mollywalked by James Madison.
they
Yeah.
hung 70 on him. 70.
70 points.
Yeah, that's
That's nuts.
that's a tough look. That's a tough look. Mac Brown, their head coach, resigned after the game and then unresigned.
Really? I had no idea about
He
that.
told the team he was retiring because he wasn't the guy, and then the team voted to keep him. So it was like a whole thing within a thing. And
They're willingly going to take someone who told you that he wasn't the guy.
I think he was more just like, because he's an old coach, and he just was like,
Right.
I don't want to be the guy if you all don't think I'm the guy. And then they were like, you're the guy. So he resigned. So now are we considering him as like an interim coach to himself?
I have no idea.
He's filling the spot that he left but went back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Well, they're bad. Duke's bad. NC State's bad. App State got bullied.
They did.
What do they got going on over there? I don't.
ECU has cool uniforms.
That's true. That is true.
Best thing in North Carolina.
The Pirates.
Not North Carolina State.
No.
Yeah, struggling in the football department over there. They're ready.
I don't even want to pick, but I don't even want to pick between UNC and Duke. I don't even.
I have no idea.
I'm going to say North Carolina.
It's at Duke. I'm going to say Duke.
We'll revisit this next week.
We will. Not a good game this year, but in years past it has been a pretty good game. Kicking off the 7 o'clock night games. Number 3 Ohio State at unranked Michigan State. I mean, everyone probably expects Ohio State to go in there. They're favored by 24. They're probably going to go in there and cover. But, I mean, in years past, this has been a pretty interesting game. Just probably won't be this year.
Yeah, Michigan State's kind of fallen off the wagon the last couple seasons.
Yeah, they have.
But, yeah, I mean, I think Ohio State probably wins pretty big. This might be,
Right.
unless it happens to be one of those magical Big Ten upsets that happen every year. There's always one. So.
It'd be good for us. Ohio State's ahead of us.
Yeah, as a Tennessee fan, I'm pulling for Sparty all day long in this one. But
Right? Heck yeah.
I mean, it'll take a miracle, but miracles do happen. So
Yeah. And I apologize if I'm going a little fast. There is, I'm sure most of y'all know what we're talking about, but there is a pretty big game coming up that I'd like to get to and spend a decent amount of time on. So before we get into that one, just a couple more games. ACC matchup still sounds weird to say, but Stanford at 17 Clemson. I wasn't a Clemson believer last week. Bought into maybe North Carolina not being as bad as they looked when they played us and bet on them to cover. That came back to bite me. Clemson looks like they might be actually halfway decent. In Clemson, I think they probably win this game against Stanford and get another conference win. What do you think?
yeah, Clemson's got some good mojo going. I mean, it's hard to really crown them as back after an NC State game. NC State just now looks bad, but I mean, they've got to be the favorite to win the ACC for crying out loud. I mean,
No way, Miami.
oh, I forget they're in there.
Yeah,
See, I'm so used to thinking that Miami is bad that I forgot about them. Sorry to them. Yeah, no, they are.
Miami probably thinks they're in the Big East right now for
No.
how well they're doing.
Good save. That they definitely are the favorites. I just completely ignored them.
Hey, you're good.
For how many years Clemson just dominated that conference? I mean,
Right.
I don't know.
They're looking good for.
Do they play in the regular season? Those two?
I can look, but yeah, Clemson's looking good for a team whose head coach doesn't believe in the transfer portal.
Yeah, he's gonna have to believe eventually. That's all I'm gonna say. But
He will. They do not play in the regular season.
okay,
Sad
well,
to see.
I don't know if you could consider that already the ACC championship, but I'd be very confused if it's not because
Right.
Florida
Me
State
too.
quite literally sucks. Which they got to win. We'll give them their
They
fine.
play Clemson.
This show can officially say that Florida State won a football game this year
They did.
against what was it, Cal?
Yeah, they beat Cal. Conference game.
14-9.
1-1 in 1-1. I think they're 1-1 in the conference.
No, they lost to Georgia Tech. They lost to Boston College. They lost to
Georgia Tech is ACC as well. That's right.
so is
So yeah,
BC. So yeah, they're
1-2.
one
Yeah,
and
I knew
two.
that. I knew they lost to Boston College. I forgot Georgia
And
Tech was
then
in the
what
ACC.
was the other team
Yeah.
they lost to? They were Memphis.
Memphis. Yeah. Which
Yikes.
Memphis is going on a tear.
They
right
are.
now.
They are. They
Uh,
are.
They're a good team. Last game, I just want to talk about right before we get into the big one. For those of you who enjoy either of these teams, you got 18, Iowa State, Brock Purdy's alma mater at Houston. Not too much to talk about this game. Iowa State's probably going to win the game. But Houston did play. Did they play Oklahoma or somebody pretty close earlier in the season? So just want to make a quick note of that.
Yeah, I mean,
And now,
Iowa
yeah,
State
what
looks
were you saying?
good. Iowa State looks good.
They
They
do.
they won the Iowa game, which was a huge rivalry, which they weren't supposed to win. And
Right.
I mean, I don't know. We'll see. They've played well. I think they should win by a good margin.
Yeah, they probably will. But now we got the big one, and I'll let you kick this one off.
Well, the game he's talking about is Bama, Georgia, and it's in Tuscaloosa. It's a night game, college game day, the whole shebang. I think the stat was this is the first time Bama's been home underdogs pretty much in a very, very long time. They haven't lost a game where they're underdogs at home at least since 2007, which was Saban's first year.
Yeah, pretty sure. Yeah,
Where
because last time we beat them was 06
that was about the last time that
before
Bama
22.
wasn't good.
Yeah,
So Georgia, I think, is 2.5-point favorites on the road. Kirby's 1-5 against Bama, which put an asterisk because this is the first one without Nick Saban,
yeah,
who was his mentor. So if anyone knows how to beat Kirby Smart, it was Nick Saban. But Saban's gone. I don't know if he's going to
one
be
and
helping.
five against Saban. Yeah,
I don't know if Saban's going to be helping DeBoer throughout the week. I don't know if he's allowed to do that or what the deal is now because he's on College Game Day at that game. But man, there's a lot. There's a lot on the line in this. We got the number 2 versus number 4 team in the country. Bama has a lot to prove. This is the first big game of the DeBoer era. We don't know what
right.
his tenure is going to look like there. But on the other hand, Georgia is Kirby's probably really pissed off that the only games he really loses to is Alabama,
Right.
where he previously coached. So I'm having a really, really hard time to say that the Dogs aren't going to win. I mean, I'm going to take Georgia to win on the road. I know Bama fans close their ears or whatnot because they'll tell me there's no chance in hell, but I'm sorry. I think Georgia wins, and I could be wrong. This game is pretty much a flip of a coin from what it seems like. It's really hard to pick.
It is.
But I think this means more to Kirby Smart than anything else. So I think he's going to do anything in his power to not lose this game again. Because if he does, then it's going to be this whole narrative that he just can't beat Alabama.
Absolutely. I'm gonna pick Georgia to win as well. Like you were saying earlier, it's a 2-point spread, which pretty much means that on a neutral site they just call it a pick 'em. Only thing I would say is if Alabama does win, like we were talking about off the pod, it may be a little bit better for us because if Alabama won and we beat Alabama and lost to Georgia, it would be a whole triangle of what I don't know what you'd do in that situation, but a lot of tiebreakers. So I don't know, but yeah, at the end of the day, I think Georgia's going to win. I think they're probably the better team. Milroe has a lot to prove, in my opinion. I haven't seen too much to be impressed as impressed as most people are by him. I think he's a hell of an athlete, but pretty raw, not very polished. So, yeah, I'm going to take Georgia if I had to take one of them, but it's tough. I don't know.
Yeah. So with that, we're going to kind of start a new thing, hopefully every college week, maybe even in the NFL episodes, we can do whatever. But we're going to try to, as a show, the two of us combine what we think is a good potential 4-leg, 5-leg, somewhere in there parlay of the week. So I'm going to share my screen. You just let me know. Let me see here. Are you able to see that?
Yeah, I can see it now.
Okay.
Perfect.
So we put together a 4-leg parlay. It ends up being plus 1240 on the odds. So what we talked about, we both thought that Arkansas is going to cover the spread plus 4.5 at the A&M neutral site game. We personally both thought that Arkansas can win, but to play it safe rather than taking the money line, we wanted to take just Arkansas to cover. And then we took Oklahoma on the road against Auburn. We think that they're the better team. And if they win, football's weird, but they probably won't win by 1 or 2, just 1 point. I guess it could happen, but we like those odds. And then we took Illinois at Penn State. Illinois has been playing really good football. Penn State really hasn't been like anything out of the ordinary, and we saw a 17.5 point spread, and we said we got to take it. They could lose by literally 17 and still cover.
Absolutely.
And then the last one we just talked about was Georgia going into Tuscaloosa, winning by at least 3, which kind of going back to what we said about Oklahoma. In theory, if they win, it's by more than 1 or 2 points. So,
right. So, I like it. I think it has good potential of hitting. You got plus 1240, so $10 wins you $124. $100 wins you $1,240.
We're both going to
do with that what you will.
Yeah, we're both going to put $10 on it. We are not giving you financial advice whatsoever. So you do with that information as you wish. We're just telling you what we're doing.
Exactly.
And
I'm not telling you what to do.
If you happen to tail us and win, congratulations. If you happen to tail us and lose, don't ever trust us because we're not experts. We're just
if you think we're idiots and want to fade us all the way down the board, go for it.
Show us in the comment sections. I don't know. I'm here for it. We have plenty of predictions on this show, and there's plenty that are right. There's plenty that are wrong, and we are willing to face either one. So next time we see y'all, we might be $124 richer, but we might have also lost $10, which the way betting has been going recently, probably lost $10.
Probably.
But, obviously, I don't. Depending on where you're listening to this, check if it's legal in your state. We do not condone any illegal sports betting and whatnot. Sooner or later, we're going to have to get the whole, bottom.
Must be 21 plus.
Yeah, and throw that on the bottom of the screen somewhere on here just so you guys cannot screw us. So,
right.
Don't bet unless you're supposed to. And if you do, even if you're supposed to, don't listen to us.
There you go. Don't hold us accountable. We are not liable.
No. But yeah, other than that, Tennessee on the bye, covered the Oklahoma game, covered week 4. I'm excited for week 5. I think that's it for today.
Yeah, I'm good if you are. Take it easy, y'all.
Yeah, and we'll have our episode 9 for the NFL coming out on Friday morning. Other than that, make sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify.
Twitter.
Oh, Twitter. God, every time. But yeah, thank you all again, and we'll see you next time.
Good deal. Take it easy.